Hey everybody, how's it going? Happy Sunday morning. We're going to do things a little bit differently today in this video. I usually don't talk about things like this. I try to talk specifically about this team and the players on this team. I usually don't go into the more extracurricular things like this on this channel. But we're going to mix it up a little bit today, and we're going to go ahead and talk about the Olympics, specifically DK Metcalf's attempts to participate in the 2021 Tokyo Olympics. And I wasn't going to make a video about this. This has obviously been a story for a week plus now. It's been out there for some time. So, yeah, I originally was just going to let it happen and not really say anything about it because I didn't really have that much to say about it. The only thing that really occurred to me as I was reading about this and hearing about it was something that I was actually very concerned about. But at first, I was just thinking to myself, I'm probably just being paranoid. I'm probably just being a little silly. I shouldn't be making videos about stuff that I'm afraid of like this. I should just, be a little more chill with things. But yesterday evening, I saw something on field goals, which I'll get to in a second, that kind of made me think, maybe I was barking up the right tree there. Maybe I should go ahead and say what I feel needs to be said about this. So I'm sure you guys all know. But DK Metcalf's going to attempt to qualify for the USA track and field team in the Olympics next year. And he's apparently going to try out for the 100-meter dash. And first of all, to talk about this as more of a, event to kind of celebrate it if you're in the group of people who think this is really cool. And I'll give you that there's a very good chance this ends up just being kind of a fun sideshow. Basically, we can watch it happen later today. He'll be trying out for the 100-meter dash at about 1:30 Pacific time, so 4:30 Eastern, on NBC, NBC Sports, and you can stream it off NBCSports.com. And basically, he needs to run a 40-yard dash in 10.05 seconds in order to automatically qualify for the Olympic team. If he goes higher than that, then he needs to finish in the top 32, which is still possible, but the higher the time gets, the less likely it becomes. Metcalf had run on a relay team, 4x 100-meter relay team in high school, and his best time was about 10.38, so he's probably got to improve on that at least a little bit to actually make it. But basically, those are the technical details of what's going on later today. Metcalf's going to try his hand at the 100-meter dash, needs to get his time around 10.2, if I had to guess, in order to make the team. And we will see what happens because it looks like he's going to do it. Now, the real question to me is not, is he going to pull this off? Is he going to make the team? What kind of time is he going to run? That stuff's interesting, and hopefully we'll be able to spend at least a couple of days talking about that and not talking about why did he do this in the first place? Why is he doing this? Because there's definitely a world where we end up regretting allowing DK Metcalf to do this because the team had to have allowed DK Metcalf to do this. He can't make this kind of decision on his own. He can't do something like this without permission from the team on some level. So, field goals. Yesterday evening, I found this article. Seahawks allowing DK Metcalf to run the 100 meters is unusual. I'm not going to read the whole article. I'm going to briefly go through it. But the short version of this article is basically that the Seahawks should have denied him permission to run in the 100-meter dash. And they give a couple reasons why. So if we briefly go through this article, they talk about this basically all stems from him chasing down Budda Baker in the Cardinals game last year on the what should have been the pick six, right? So obviously that was the play that got everyone thinking, like, how fast is this dude? How good could this guy be in a 100-meter dash? And now it's kind of snowballed to the point where he's actually going to be in the Olympic 100-meter dash tryouts. So the article writer says he doesn't think that Metcalf's going to do very well on the tryouts, which is a fair assessment. I think he's somewhat unlikely to make the team. But it also goes into whether or not he should be trying this in the first place. So basically, Metcalf would have had to have sought permission from the team in order to do this. That just makes sense, right? He's doing something physical with his body that he does not usually do, that is unconventional, and it could put one of their investments at risk for the upcoming NFL season. So you would think that DK Metcalf would have had to go to the team and say, hey, can I do this? And the team would have had to say yes. So, should they have said yes? And this article kind of posits that the answer to that question is probably no. And when I first heard about this, my instinctual reaction was, I don't know if we should be doing this. I don't know if we should have said yes. Maybe we should have just said no. So, a lot of you guys have probably already heard about the Jawan James incident in Denver, where Jawan James was working out on his own, not working out at the team facility, which a lot of players are choosing to do this offseason. And he ended up tearing his ACL. He's going to miss the whole 2021 season. And because of that, he might not get the $10 million he was going to be paid this year because he got hurt on his own time. So these two stories kind of both happening at the same time cannot help but make you wonder, is this really a good idea by the team to allow him to do this? And is this a good idea by DK Metcalf to do, entering what will be effectively for him a contract year because he can renegotiate his deal next year? So Metcalf is obviously really important to this team, and here's the thing. Obviously, in football, you run, and in track and field, you run. But it's not the same, and this article kind of goes into that in further detail. Again, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but DK Metcalf ran track in high school. He did not do track in college, so he hasn't done this in a while. And at the end of the day, there is a difference between how world-class sprinters run and how even a really fast football player runs. You know, these sprinters, these guys going 100-meter dashes, these guys doing, 40-meter dashes or whatever it ends up being, the little things that they do, the subtle differences in how they run allow them to get up to top speed almost immediately because that's what you have to do in a 100-meter dash. Players like DK Metcalf, NFL players in general, they casually build up to full speed. They don't come out of their breaks like they're just trying to sprint to the other end line. It's a little different. I know Metcalf is obviously a player who plays a lot of his snaps at full speed. I know he's a guy who frequently runs go routes down the field, but it's different. It just is. And those little effort differences could be the difference between DK Metcalf doing what he does dozens of times every week in a football game and him maybe pushing his body a little bit too hard and ending up injuring himself. So this article gives an example of a Michael Johnson, one of the greatest sprinters of all time, running a running a 150-meter dash, and Michael Johnson ended up pulling up lame because he pulled his hammy, and I'm sorry, but as fun as this could be, and as likely as it is that we'll end up being really happy that this happened at the end of the day because it was a cool thing to talk about for a few minutes, it cannot help but occur to me that if Metcalf pushes himself a little too hard or a little differently today in this track meet and ends up hurting himself, pulling his hammy, or God forbid, tearing a ligament, or doing something that lingers on into the regular season, that's a devastating blow to the team, and it's something that absolutely did not need to happen. And look, I mean, these are individuals, these are people, these are not just football players that exist only for our amusement. They should be able to have some freedom to do what they want. But I get the feeling that I'm not the only Seahawks fan who's going to be watching this track thing tomorrow, this tryout for Metcalf, holding my breath a little bit. Because for about 10 seconds there, something bad could really happen. And I know it doesn't seem like a huge difference between what DK Metcalf does coming off the snap, sprinting down the field, and him sprinting trying to make the Olympic track and field team, but the little differences could mean something. So I will watch. I'm going to watch. I'm going to see how he does, and hopefully I'll be here later today talking about how good he did and how he just came up a little bit short and how I can't wait to see what he does on the football field this season. But I'm going to be holding my breath for about 10 seconds later today, and I'm really hoping that the worst doesn't happen. And look, I'm not saying it's likely, but there is definitely a world that exists, that very reasonably exists, where we end up in about 5 hours kicking ourselves for not putting our foot in front of this and just preventing this from happening at all. So I'll see you guys after the track run, and we'll talk about whatever happened. And hopefully all I'm going to have to talk about is the time he put up and whether or not he actually made the Olympics. But time will tell. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks.